It's good to see you all and to be here and talk a little bit. It's all my friends here, so good to see you. My name's Jim Damian, and I'm not sure if you wanted to come to this session on purpose or you got lost, but we'll spend a few minutes chatting. I'm supposed to talk from 4 to 5, but it'll be less than that, I do believe, so we'll have time for questions. And it'll be interactive, so if you're gonna, when you interact, be loud, because we got a lot of chatter in the room, and that's okay, because we're entrepreneurial and we'll figure out how to get this going. So again, I'm Jim Damian. I am, for the last 5.5 months, have been serving as Kern County's Chief Economic Development Officer. So let me just start with a question. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey, and we'll talk a little bit about Chief Economic. By the way, if you don't want to hear about economic development or entrepreneurship, this is your chance to go get a drink. If you're not already had a drink, you can get one now or just wait. We'll get you out of here to get one ahead of schedule. But let me ask a question, and when you answer, please tell us your name and what organization you're with, because this is also kind of a networking deal for everybody. So, when you hear the word economic development, I'm curious to know what you think of when you hear that, because I'll tell you a story about what I thought of when I first heard it. But when you hear this term economic development, what do you think? And again, tell us your name and what organization you're with as you answer. Nice and loud, big voices. Mr. Stephen Hetblack.
I'm Stephen Hetblack from ADS. I think new jobs, job creation.
New jobs. And by the way, Stephen, since you rose your hand and answered, I'm going to give you a copy of a book. This is a new book that just came out by a guy that many of you know, a friend of ours. His name is Michael Young. He's a local entrepreneur, and he wrote a book about his entrepreneur. Yes, a round of applause for Michael Young. So I did not write a book. I can barely read a book, but I did get this signed, and so when you raise your hand and offer up a comment, you get a book. So, new jobs. Who thinks that's a good economic development definition? I think that's pretty good. Who else? Who else has one? Yes?
Sarah with American Safety, business-to-business contracts.
Business-to-business contracts. Okay, that's good. Sarah from American Safety, you want a book?
Sure.
All right, well, that's another one, Farmer's Code, and that's signed by the author. Chapter 13 is the best one, Scott. Okay, Mr. Garrison, go for it.
Scott Garrison from Spalding Ridge, encouraging new businesses to come to Kern County.
Encouraging new businesses. Scott already has all these books, but I'll give you death by meeting.
I have a physical one.
Oh, all right.
I'll take that one.
You want?
I only have it on.
All right, that one's signed by our friend Mike. Okay, so we've got a couple. Scott's was new businesses. Okay, that's good. So I asked this question, and I'm writing down your answers because I got a call in March, April of 2022, after we sold our company, from a guy named Ryan Alsop. Ryan Alsop was the Chief Administrative Officer for Kern County. And he says, Jim, we're doing something different at Kern County. We're going to create a position called Chief Economic Development Officer, and we'd like you to think about coming on. And I said, oh, Ryan, I don't know, that sounds really great. I'm super humbled. And this is not a joke. I put him on speaker, and I Googled, what is economic development? Because I'm like, he's asking me to do this thing. I don't know if it means like catching dogs. Obviously, I thought, I was thinking like finance. And to tell you the truth, it sort of depends on the day. That definition changes. But in general, there's a couple like a couple North Stars. There's a North Star that we think about when we talk about economic development. And all the answers that came out a second ago were dead on. It's about creating jobs. But not just any jobs. There's a general sense that we want to create something called good jobs. What's a good job? Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. There's a good first job. There's a good mid-career job. There's a good job if you're going to support a family. There's a good job if you're going to work for. So the definition can be a little bit different, but good jobs is part of it, adding to the mix. Second piece that we think about is it should be broad. Especially if you take a place like Kern County. We are blessed with 3 things that nobody else has. And I think nobody else in the world has this. Okay? This 3-legged stool that we all ride on. Community. I mean, we got a great community. And it's hard to, how do you quantify that? You see it, you know it, you live it. It's why we're here. Okay, so community is a good one. The second one, for some reason, we find ourselves in a place with very unique geology. For whatever reason, Millions, tens of millions of years ago, these things died here and are down underground, and they've decomposed and set there, and we pull that stuff up and create good products like my iPhone case and the gas that runs the car and the plastic that's the steering wheel on a Tesla and that camera and the lipstick and the clothes and the dye, petroleum, oil, right? So our geology is super special. And we've got wind, right? We've got solar. We are the #1 solar and storage project in America right now. We just happen to find ourselves with this really cool geology and geography. Companies here, you've all seen the statistics, how close we are to the various major metropolitan areas within the 5th largest economy on the face of the planet. So we've got this cool mix of opportunity, geology, geography, and community. And so economic developers in this county and in this town really think about it as, yes, creating jobs, but creating good jobs and that have widespread appeal. We don't just want one kind of job. We want a lot of kinds of jobs, because what's the risk? And we're living it now. If you have any bankers in the room? Okay, good. Well, bankers, anybody ever borrow money from a bank? Yeah, and they say, you have too much what we call concentration in a certain industry. And I always thought that was kind of funny, because the bankers call it over-concentration. I just call it expertise. But anyway, what happens if you have an industry that's, you're too reliant on one industry? What could happen? I like somebody to tell me their name and their organization. They're going to get a book. So who wants to go? Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Damian with Advanced Data Storage. The government can put those people out of business tomorrow because they will make rules that make it impossible for you to succeed in your business.
The rules can change, right? Things can happen. You're too concentrated in one industry, you're subject to disruption, right? So there's a risk there. We want broad economic well-being that enhances the quality of life for as many people as possible. So that means not concentrated in one specific industry, but actually broad spread. So as I think about economic development, that's kind of what I think about. Kind of go through, I start this job with, by the way, it's kind of funny, Ryan Alsop, who hired me, you know what he did on my very first day? Resigned. He quit. Yeah, he's left. He's like, that's enough. And he actually is now the CEO of Napa County. So I think he made a mistake leaving Kern, but that's okay. Created room for our COO, Jim Zervis, to come up, and Jim Zervis is the CAO. Brilliant, great guy. They've hired me, and I'm kind of looking around and looking for areas to focus on. And so if you say, well, okay, economic development, we can kind of agree on that topic. More business, more jobs. Okay, that's good. I mean, who's going to argue with that, right? We want lots of different kinds of jobs. Who's going to argue with that? So how do we crystallize that into a vision? Well, the vision that we have at the County of Kern is special. Because of our geology, geography, and community spirit, we have a chance to be something very special. And that something is the best place in the state to start and grow a business. So every day, when it comes to economic development, we think about what can we do to make this place the best place in the state to start and grow a business. Because everybody says, when you say you're from Bakersfield or from California, what do you hear? What's the criticisms that you hear sometimes?
Beautiful downtown Bakersfield.
Beautiful. Tell us who you are so I can give you a book.
Kevin Oliver Associates Real Estate Team.
All right, Kevin. That's right. People sometimes make fun of Bakersfield. What was that? Johnny Carson kind of gave us a bad rap. What else do people say about California in general?
It's really friendly to the employee.
Yeah, it's hard to be a business in California. We've heard it. But guess what? I mean, we've been here a long time. Is everybody going to leave? I don't know. Maybe. I hope not. But we're here. Our families are here. Our friends are here. I kind of like Stockdale Country Club. So, I kind of take the approach, if we're going to do economic development, let's try and fix some of the problems. Leaving's easy. Leaving's kind of easy. You can go to Tennessee or Texas. That's okay. No harm, no foul. But what if you stay? I mean, if you want to play in the big leagues and your football is your passion, you want to play in what league? In the NFL. So to me, even though the playing field is kind of hard in California relative to some other states, the best of the best stay here precisely because it's kind of hard. And we kind of like the beach, and we kind of like the mountains, and usually we have family here. But we're here because it's hard. That's why we're here. So if we're going to do something, let's do something kind of amazing. And that's what I think the community spirit attracts people. So we want to be the best place in the state of California to start and grow business. So what are we doing about it? Well, I'm going to give you a couple areas of focus, and I'll tell you what we're doing in those areas. I'll tell you a little story, though. You know, what drives me is, and we talk about this a lot, I think the passion that we all have as entrepreneurs, as business people, as community members, starts with your why, right? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? Anybody know their why? Why do you do what you do? Anybody have it down to a sentence or something? Okay. Family. That's a great why. And that means something different to everybody, right? But that's a great why. That gets you out of bed. Tell us your name and where you're from. What organization?
Joseph Barker. I'm not registered with you guys. I came out here to check out the club, but
Hey, a round of applause for Joe. That's what we like to talk about, Joe. Let's give Mr. Man a book. Tell him how great. All right, Joe.
perfect.
Hey, and I tell you,
What's your name?
my name's Jim. Yeah. All right, Joe. When you know your why, like Joe here, you know it like you know your name. Anybody else have a why?
Tom Maxwell from accounting firm, because I love what I do and I get to help people.
I love what I do, and I get to help people. And you know it like your name. So my encouragement to you, as you think about what you're doing, and as I talk about economic development, we can really do special things in the economy when we work with people who know their why. And the more crystallized your why gets, the better off you are, the more authentic you are, and you just land on people better. What's your why? So I would encourage everybody to think about that. And I'll tell you the truth, as a few people in here know, sometimes the why is all you got. I told you I had kind of a serendipitous way of getting to this job. I was a private sector entrepreneur for 18 years. We built a great company called Stria. After 18 years, we said, you know, that was a good run. Let's move on to different chapters in life and sell the company. When our why, I know my why, I know it like my name, positively impact lives and livelihoods. That's my why. And as you get crystallized and you spend time thinking about your why, you get that. And we were ready to move on. We sold the company and, you know, started getting some installment payments. This the way the acquisitions work. It's this fancy thing called an earnout. They don't give you all the money at once. It's kind of a bummer, you know, but you kind of get it in pieces. We didn't really get too much, got a little bit, it was okay. The big money was coming, you know, and we're making this money. We have our why, things are good, we're rocking. And then we got a call in May by the company that bought us. They go, oh, hey, it's called this company. Anybody hear this story, Bitwise? You guys, they called all of us on May 29th, and all 900 people, and they said, oh, by the way, we're out of business. Oh, wait a second, you're out of business? Wait, well, hold on, can you pay us first before you stop? And then it's like, no. So then it came out, if you read the articles, this massive case of fraud, and we all got had, and it was an ugly chapter. And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, sometimes all you got is your why. So that's when I talk about the why of economic development. It's to make Kern County the best place in the state to start and grow business. As you crystallize your personal why for you and your organization, it's important because it drives you, it fuels you. It sounds cool when you say it in a room and you just walk out like unscripted, you know, like Joe. It's awesome, feels good. But I'll tell you an even more important reason. When the darkness comes and the check you thought you were gonna get ain't gonna come, or the email from the person who you thought was a good boss or a good customer, or just a crappy thing happens. Sometimes when it's a bad day or a bad hour, the only thing you have is that why. And so as you think about your why, and then what we're trying to do at Kern County is really crystallize our why as an organization on the terms of economic development. It's so important because that's your life raft. That's your salvation, your why, when the going gets really tough. So I would encourage you as you think through, you know, growing your organization, networking at this beautiful event, and, you know, being a member of this community and leaning into creating jobs and growing companies, keep your eye on that why. Because when the going gets tough, that might be all you got. And as Scott, my business partner, knows, and Stephen Hetblack, and Michael Hansen, who's a big part of this journey, and Dan, you know, a lot of the people who went on this journey with us, our why was to positively impact lives and livelihoods, and that didn't matter if you're getting paid or not. When Joe walked out of there, he goes, family. Didn't matter, you know, you're at Disneyland or you're at a funeral. Your why is your family. You can really make good, solid, proud decisions in that moment. So as we kind of think through our why, that's a really important thing at the county. And so why is crystallized for us, make Kern County the best place in the state to start and grow a business. So how are we going to do that? Because the why needs to turn into a how and a what. So what are we doing?
Can we make this interactive?
Let's make it interactive.
Okay.
Absolutely. Scott's got something to say. Mr. Garrison.
I do, and I know we have a little bit of time, and I don't know if you had a full hour that you wanted to talk, but I just want to commend Jim Damian. I mean, through what we went through and the amount of money that we lost and the devastation to 120, 130 employees that we genuinely cared about, that was a rough time. But that guy led through opposition and negativity and devastation like nobody I've ever seen before. And you know the character of a true leader when you face the negativity and the rottenness and the hurt and the pain. And as a partner of him, it kind of helped guide us through this exit. You know, I took a lot of guilt and shame over the deal, but not for 1 second did he ever place any blame on me. He said, dude, we win and we lose together. We're in this together. You're my best friend. You're my business partner. So we'd show up to work every day, take the heated phone calls from the clients where we had their content. A lot of times it was HR records or medical records, super confidential stuff, right? And we would have guys like Steven coming out and getting the boxes ready, even though the mothership was telling us, you don't touch anything. It's like, no, there's no wrong way to do the right thing. So we took phone calls from clients, sometimes that were very unhappy. We were not getting paid. We wrote letters of reference. We were making phone calls to our clients saying, these are the people that were working on your camp. Can you hire them directly? And that guy right there is a true leader, and I'm glad the county saw that and put him in a leadership position for our entire county. So thanks.
That was unscripted. So now, you know, we can do that. Thank you, Scott. That means a lot to me. And we could talk a lot about all those sharp edges more, right? But yeah, that's nice to say. And we all do our best every day. And sometimes it's a newspaper worthy headline, and sometimes it's just, you know, something else that's private, and that's okay too. Mr. Oliver.
Yes, you had asked how do we create better economic development within our county. Number one, a lot of things that and you and I have talked about is to go ahead and, you know, bring incentives for bringing other big companies in. But more importantly, what we need to do is remove some of the bureaucracy and the roadblocks that we have within our permitting process, within our conditional use permit process, things like that. When they come before me in the planning commission and stuff like that, I sit there and I look at all the bureaucracy that some of these people are going through, and I see their frustrations. We need to remove some of that bureaucracy so that we can incentivize some of the people coming from other areas or other areas of the world, for that matter, into our community to help our community. And that's how I think that we spawn some of our economic development.
That's a great point, Kevin, and that, you know, that kind of gets into the how, right? Because it's, you know, it's Mom, America, and apple pie, more invest, like we all get that. So where's the county focus, to Kevin's point, as we take the experience that we're kind of shared and you know, all of us having had difficult times in life, there's really 5 things we're trying to do. So one thing I do on your behalf, you all are Kern County taxpayers, whether or not you live here or not, you drive on the road, you buy gas, you know, you all are my customers, and I'm trying to be my best vendor, taxpayer funded staff to you that I can. I try and represent Kern County, or I do represent Kern County in regional conversations. The amount of bureaucracy is staggering. You've all seen it. It's not hyperbolic, it's real. And it starts, so I told you our true north is make Kern County the best place in the state to start and grow a business. The other, you know, star that we shoot for, and I say this every day, and people don't like it. I'm not super popular at work, but I like it because I represent you all as an employee. It's very simple that we tell the government, stay out of the way. That's the best thing government can do. Let businesses and entrepreneurs entrepreneur. Like, that's okay. So we try and stay out of it, but that means being at the conversation. You've heard the saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. There's a little bit of truth to that. It's not so draconian. So we try and go to state meetings with like people like GoBiz. We try and make our way to Sacramento where we can. As you see, our planning department has filed a multi-year process to try and get oil drills happening again in Kern County instead of importing it through the Port of Long Beach like we're doing right now from adversarial countries. I looked into that. I thought that was all BS and hyperbole. It's not. That's happening every day. It's not a good thing. So the being involved in these conversations is really important. And so I try and bring an entrepreneurial lens on behalf of you all to these conversations and on behalf of the 5 board of supervisors that we all work for. There's about 8,500 employees in the county. We report to the board of supervisors, and that's what they want. They want Kern County to be the best. They want it to be special. So we try and execute that mission. Mr. Deming.
I want to share with everybody. I happen to have this on my phone right now.
Okay.
Kern County recognized as the most sustainable small city in the nation. Your job is to sell this city, to sell this county. And
Okay, thank you. That's a good. There's a lot of articles out there that we can use. You'll send me that one, right, Jim? All right.
I sent it to Michael, he'll send it.
All right, Michael, you got it from Jim. I'd like you to send it to Stephen. Stephen will get it to Scott, and then Scott, okay, we got it. That's a good article. I'll print it and have it on my wall. Thank you, Jim. So that's one. We represent people at these conversations. We represent you all and the county at statewide conversations. Those are lonely conversations because our unique geology, geography, and community, we don't always see exactly the same way as the rest of the state. We're not wine country, okay? So we're different. Doesn't mean we're better or worse. We're different. Of course, as a Kern County guy, I say we're better, but the reality is every part of the Golden State has pros and cons. So how do we accentuate the pros? One of that is representing us. The second thing we do, and this is really specific, really targeted. Okay, let me ask a question. I'm out of books, but we'd still like to get your name and where you work with. Has anybody ever pulled a county permit to build something? Yes. Or do something? Who said yes? Yes. And, okay, how was your experience?
Not so good.
Okay. No, next topic. No, I'm just kidding. Look, it's a loaded question because any government process, look, we're not super fine-tuned to like be a great service provider in all cases. But we believe with great fervor that Kern County should be the easiest place to permit buildings. And we have to get better at that. We're good. Kern County's good. Talk to some developers. There are problems, but we're pretty good. We believe Josh Champlin, who runs Public Works, Lorelei Oviatt, who runs the planning department, Jim Zervis, the CAO, the supervisors, the 5 supervisors, we believe we can be the best place in the state of California to pull a permit to build or change some infrastructure. So we got to get there. So one of my jobs, one of my big projects is to help improve that process. So we're building a dashboard that's going to show how long permits take. We're going to have, just like, I don't know, anybody ever been through drive-through McDonald's? Sorry, I go through sometimes. In the old days, you used to drive through and you'd see the little thing, Big Mac, and it's green because we're not, but then if it's more than 38 seconds, it turns red because, it didn't meet the standard. So we're putting standards on every permit process. We're going to have a dashboard, and when people and developers too, and staff get those processes through quickly, we're going to pat our staff on the back. When we're sluggish or delayed, we're going to proactively reach out to customers and say, gosh, we didn't get it right, sorry, and so modernizing that permit. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'm going to change my answer. So that part I like actually, the dashboard, it tells you that by this date the staff must respond back, and they do respond back by that day. So that portion works really well, the portal works well.
And we've got to get better at that though, because that, we're going to make it easier and we're going to make it more transparent. But so that's coming. We're going to modernize all that because that does happen, but not always. So we're going to make that better. And treat it, just like a private company sector treats their customers. We want our taxpayers to feel the same love because, candidly, people that build things can build them anywhere, and we want them to choose Kern County.
So recently I had a building permit issued, and it really came down to state level ambiguities in the way they wrote their code and a liberal interpretation by the city of what that code really means. So is it possible to talk to the building department and have them take a more conservative approach in their interpretation of somewhat ambiguous, rules that are coming from the state?
We want to standardize the decision so you're not surprised. the law might be ambiguous, but when you come up to the county and you go, you know what, we want a conditional use or we want a certificate of occupancy for this kind of building, we should with clarity say, you submit the forms correctly, and here's how to do it correctly. We'll have an answer in 2 weeks or 10 weeks or 2 hours. I don't know. I'm not a developer, but we should tell you with certainty what it is. So remove the ambiguity, because what we've heard from developers is the number one thing they want, affordability is nice, but these are long-term projects. I mean, you buy a building, you're not going to sell it tomorrow. I mean, maybe you're going to usually hold it. They want certainty. The money's less important. Certainty on when you can have occupancy and when you can get a grading permit and when you can get a TI improvement permit. Those are the things we're working on. So that county building permit process is a big part of what we think is going to move the needle to realize the vision of being the best in the state. So representing the county at these state meetings, right? That's part of the job. Modernizing our permitting process. Okay, those are the two. The third I want to talk about is attracting new investment. I have a fundamental view that the best system to help companies land somewhere is capitalist system that we've got, right? And we have a big part of our economy is based on capitalism. That works really good. We actually have a blended economy because it's capitalism plus, government plays a big role in our lives, for better and for worse, right? There's good and bad of everything. But attracting new investment, people are gonna choose to come to Kern County or Bakersfield, probably no matter what we in the government do. But we can help. And so what we try and do is say, can we help companies know about us? Can we market the region? Can we get them to notice Kern County so that we're in the discussion? We're not going to win everybody, but we're going to win some. So a good example, we call companies and say, we'd like to come take you on a tour. And we've got different organizations around town that do that. Kern Economic Development Corporation, we invest a lot of money in that group, and they create flyers and host tours. And we get people from all over the world to come and look at Kern County. So we got to do more of that. And I'm talking amenities, right? We want more entertainment. We do. I'm happy to report that I had nothing to do with the Whole Foods that's coming, but we're happy it's coming, right? Whole Foods is coming, that's good. We like them. We want a Bass Pro. We want REI. We wanted a casino. I mean, and these things, that casino, the Hard Rock Casino that's coming in, took a decade. And everybody would like a little credit, and everybody deserves a little credit. But the Hard Rock decided to come to Kern County, and the county government negotiated for a long time and made it as easy as possible. Same with Amazon. These companies are going to come. We just got to make it a little easier, and if we can give some incentives, we do. We've got some incentive programs, so new companies, we can decrease the risk by doing incentives, tax reimbursements. We have all sorts of levers we can pull for new or growing businesses to come in. Just make it a little easier. The private sector economy is going to determine the winners and the losers, not any government agency. But we can help. So we want to help, and that's what we try and do. Yes, sir. That's okay. Go for it. Tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Delta Clark with Bakersfield Law Stuff.
Okay.
Okay, if I was a business developer and came to look at our city, some of it is really ugly. And been ugly for years, especially the downtown area. How come the city can't take control of all the abandoned buildings and all that? Yeah, and make, like a homeless shelters or something like that. Take the people off the sidewalks that I'm going down looking at, and how come we can't do something about that?
That's it. The question is, you drive down Bakersfield in the city, you see homeless people, you see some abandoned buildings.
We really don't have a downtown.
There's no city center.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you're right. And so there are people from the city and the county who work on that problem. It takes a long time. They built a new homeless center recently. Last year they opened, 2 years ago, they opened a homeless center with 100 and some odd beds. So
how come they don't use the abandoned buildings that's been there for years, like the furniture store that I seen on TV this morning that's been on 21st and Chester forever?
So like these abandoned buildings, that's a problem. And the city and the county are trying to, we have a list of abandoned and neglected properties, and we're trying to balance two things. One, we don't want an abandoned building. People burn it down, they break in. It's terrible. We don't want that. That's bad. We all agree. However, the balancing act comes, somebody owns that building. And private property rights are a thing. And sure, the county and the city can pull eminent domain and come in and buy properties or take properties. So balancing that is a delicate balance because we do believe in private citizens can own what they want to own, and they can kind of do what they want to do with it. When it starts to impact the community, we try and implement legislation and rules that will make them either clean it up and get it occupied or move out. So people are thinking about this all day, every day. It's a big problem all across the world and all across America. But yeah, we got our work cut out for us. So we have to be the best, and to be the best, we got to come up with innovative solutions. The city has a fund, and the county has a fund where they're buying some of these buildings and rehabbing them. So it's happening. It's happening slowly. The government tends to spend their money on doing things versus broadcasting what they do, so we don't always celebrate all that work as good as we should, but it's a good point. And I promise you, a lot of people are working on it and thinking about it. Could we go faster? Yeah, and hopefully we will. And that's part of our job with this permitting process, to make government move quicker. But that's a good point. Thank you. And we know the locksmiths are ready to go. We need to change those locks, right?
Well, it's not even the locks. They're busting the windows out.
Oh, the windows too. Where's our glass supplier? Trust me, we know, we hear it, and there's a lot of work being done, and we can talk about some of the grants that are out there. I'm happy to connect with anybody to talk about grants and fund, because there are funds available right now. So we could talk a little bit more about that, because that is part of attracting new investment. The fourth thing we're really working on is our legacy partners. The County of Kern invests in a lot. The County of Kern's budget is $4.4 billion. A lot of that is state and federal money that's kind of a pass-through, but a lot of it is taxation that's done locally. And we invest in organizations that are excellent. And as we invest in those organizations, we will monitor to make sure the return on your tax dollars is sufficient. And so when we invest a dollar in economic development, we count the return on that. That's a new thing. So we are building a scorecard that you will have access to as the citizenry to see how we're doing. There's some already up there. There's a Measure K scorecard that tells you what we did with our dollars. There was a 1 cent tax increase a year and a half ago. And so you can log in and see what's going on with those dollars. But we look at every penny we invest in groups like B3K, KEDC, SBDC, incentives, that's public record. Amazon is a participant. They get incentives because they brought a huge economic impact to this region. We have a deal. We incent companies to come when they're going to come. We look at those investments and make sure your tax dollars are being used in a proper way. That's really important. So that legacy, those partnerships is really key. And the final thing I'll talk about is supporting our legacy partners. And this is really important to all of us. It's nice to modernize permitting process, to represent people at the state. We really like new investment. We want all the great chains to come. We want new businesses to come. We want to see new people in Mojave Air and Space. That's great. There's a ton of opportunity right now. Carbon capture, right, is a huge thing. New companies are coming in. So as we think about all that, we want to make sure we focus on something really, really, really important. And that's the people that are already here. The people that need jobs, that are eager for jobs, we want to help them. As important, the businesses that are here, how can we support those? And I'm talking traditional oil and gas. I'm talking agriculture. These companies that are here, from the window replacement to the holistic health companies, to the locksmiths, to the CPAs, what can the government do to make this a good place to flourish and to make money and to create jobs? So we think about that, and we kind of put that under this umbrella of supporting our legacy partners. One of the things is, let's stay out of your way. Most of the private sector, you know what to do. Play by some basic rules and go make a buck. Make two if you can. Good. And hire people and grow. So how do we do that? We think about that all the time. One is the incentives. If you're growing your company, adding headcount. If you're upskilling people in your company, we have solutions. We have funds to augment that. So let's say, this is a real example. You can call me. I'll leave my cards up here. Let's say you have a receptionist and you want them to go from a receptionist to a bookkeeper. The County of Kern, you come to us, say, hey, I'm going to do this for Johnny. Okay, it's going to take 6 months. We will pay 50% of Johnny's salary for 6 months while Johnny gets trained up. Or you're going to add positions. We will reimburse you for 50% of those payroll costs for up to 6 months. Yeah, there's a little bit of paperwork. It's not hard. It's a reimbursement. We don't front you the money. So it's not but it's pretty good because that goes right to the bottom. I'm no CPA like Tom, but that goes right to the bottom line, right? Yes. That's right. So there are programs like that we can help with because there's some things as important. But nothing is as important to the County of Kern than supporting our legacy partners who are here and growing. And when new partners come in to build businesses, they're now part of our community. We got to support them together too so we can all rise up. But the big picture of what we're doing every day, just to kind of summarize, economic development, right? Just I'll put a bow on this and happy to answer any questions. It's making Kern County the best place in the state to start and grow business. And that starts with trying to stay out of your way as you grow your companies. Broadly, the 5 things we're focusing on is representing you all, your organizations, at broader conversations at the state and federal level, fighting the good fight to help make sure policies don't come and interfere with what we're doing to build business. So representing you at these regional meetings, upgrading our permitting process. We have the best software in the world running our permitting process. Does everybody know how to use it? Do all customers know how long it should take to get a permit? Right? Josh Champlin, the Director of Public Works, has asked us to step in and help with that, so we're doing that. Attracting new investment. We want new companies to come into town, right? This idea of I own, this, and we don't want somebody else. We're not competing with each other anymore, guys. We're competing with the rest of the state and the rest of the world. So we got to think about collaboration to compete, not just competing with each other. If we trade dollars, that's a fixed loop. I buy an apple from you, you buy an orange from me. That's fine, but we're kind of stuck. Now, if I can export my apples all over the globe, a whole different conversation. So that's called a traded sector. That's why oil and gas are so huge. We grow it here and we ship it out to the world and we get to import what? Money. It's great. So that's called a traded sector. It's a fancy word for having customers that don't live in your same zip code. Supporting our legacy partners, making sure that all the businesses, 80% of the businesses in America have less than 20 employees. 80% of the businesses in America have less than 20 employees. That is the economic driver of this country, and we've got to support those businesses. And then finally, I mentioned maximizing partnerships. The county invests in a lot of partnerships. We want to make sure we're investing in the really smart way. What happens in big organizations, it's not just government, private sector too. You budget $1, you give it to this vendor or this group, this nonprofit, and all of a sudden you look back and be like, man, 30 years we've been donating $22 to this one group. I mean, it's no different than everybody. How many people subscribe to the football game you had to get Peacock? Or no, is that what it was called? Peacock? Do you guys do that? Yeah, nobody? Oh, everybody did. Yeah. Did you cancel it yet, Fawn? No. So it's the same thing in the government. Sometimes you have a contract. You got to keep an eye on this stuff and make sure you're pruning and you're investing in the best because it's your money and you're trusting us to do something with it. We got to be really responsible. So broadly speaking, those are the 5 areas that we're really working on to help make Kern County the best place in the state to start and grow a business. Again, my viewpoint is very different. I'm a private sector entrepreneur. I'm spending some time in the government to try and help. Some days I think I'm doing a great job for you guys. Some days I go, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't transfer over to be a dog catcher or something in animal control. So who knows what's going to happen. But I'll leave you with this and then open it up to questions. I do believe we can be the best place in the state to start and grow a business. And I would never, ever bet against Kern County. I think we've got geology, geography, and community that make us special. I've handed out some books that talk about families that have done it. We've got other families in the room that have done it, and we're going to keep doing it. I would never bet against Kern County. I would never bet against California. We got some things that we got to work on and fix, but I think we can do it together. So that's my view of economic development. Let me open it up to corrections, questions, or we can all just go to the bar and do a shot. Mr. Maxwell.
So what grade do you give the county right now on an A to F, and how long do you think it'll be before that whatever grade you're going to give the county turns into the next grade, and then maybe even an A at some point? So what's your timeline, and where do you grade yourself?
Are you talking economic development or in general?
Just in general.
So in general, I think the county of Kern gets an A in a lot of areas. It's the most fiscally speaking, we're one of the best run counties in the country. So if you want to know if your tax dollars are fiscally managed in a sound way, I give us an A.
Ryan also lived across the street from me, so I get it.
Yeah, he probably mowed his own lawn. I mean, he didn't want to spend any money. That's good, right? So we get an A. You talk about permitting clean energy projects, A. Wind, solar, A. You talk about permitting new oil wells. We don't have a lot of control of that right now. The state has stopped this. I mean, A for effort, but we're a D. We're still pumping oil, but we're not drilling. So we give us a D. You say economic development, the semester's still in session. Our final grade's gonna come out. We're gonna be an A. Right now, I say, I give us a B because the effort's there, but we gotta show you results. And if you can't log into a website this time next year and see how many jobs we create, delete. How many jobs the private sector created? How many new companies started in Kern County? If you can't log in and see that, then you got to fail us and we're out. But if you can see that within a year and get some indicators, and then when we do things, we can know if the problem's getting better, getting worse, or staying the same, then we still get an A. So the semester's still in session, Tom, but we're going to get that A, I promise. Or we'll retake the class. Or we'll just get expelled. So, all right, good question. That's a great question. Yes?
Question. You are among friends, fellow business entrepreneurs here. So share a little insight with us. Who is the next big player coming on? We have Amazon. We've got casinos coming in. Leak a little information.
Oh, that's a great question. Who's the next big player coming in? There are a lot of exciting things. We know Amazon's here. I mean, sometimes these companies come in and they say, we're not even going to tell you who we really are because it's confidential. I tell you one we're really recruiting hard right now, we're trying to get, is a company called Great Wolf Lodge. You guys heard of these guys? So we're working hard to get them. We're working real hard to get Spirit Airlines to come and fly us to Vegas. So those are a couple things we're trying. Vegas is fine. We're among friends, Debbie. We're good. And tell us your organization. Tell us.
Bakersfield Locksmith, Debbie.
All right, Debbie and Delta, Bakersfield Locksmith. All right. So those are companies that we're recruiting all the time, and we're trying to get them here. And there's others, right? But I will tell you, the big thing we're recruiting for also, we're trying to develop, or we're encouraging people to think about this carbon capture industry and having a carbon management park out in Elk Hills and different areas like that. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands rather, of acres. So I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to take time because it's nascent, it's new. We're trying to figure out these clean energy projects, but carbon capture is a big part of this county's future. Candidly, though, I'd like to tell you. What was that?
We have some of that before us right now. Where we're going to go.
Yes, yeah. So EIR went out on the carbon capture, and that's public record. That's coming. Big companies are investing a lot of money in that. And so that's a reality. But I'll tell you this. Who permitted the first oil well that came? Nobody. People just showed up and did it. Who permitted Dick Rutan out at Mojave Air and Space to fly his plane around the world nonstop? He just did it. People thought he was nuts. Go out to Mojave Air and Space now. You've got world-class Department of Defense contracts being let in Mojave. You've got amazing hydrogen-fueled planes. I mean, this is stuff of science fiction. We're doing it today. So I would submit the next big thing, the big splash that's going to put us at a whole new level, we probably haven't heard of. It might be somebody in this room who has this idea, that goes, aha, we're going to combine moving and storage with medical waste and be the global leader. I think it's these mashups that we're not even thinking about, that we're going to stumble onto because some entrepreneur figures out the digital lock that lets Amazon slide the stuff in the door. There you go. So I think the next big thing, we're not even talking about it because there's big things that are going to come and we're supporting those. Carbon capture, don't take your eye off that. Figure out how to get adjacent to that industry. Logistics, huge. Look at where we're situated. Green energy is already going off the chart with great things. Agriculture, look at cotton candy grapes. They're invented right here. They're a global phenomenon. They invented them right here. A scientist out in Delano, he figured it out. Only took him 30 years. So these things are coming. Some of them are already here. And the entrepreneurs in the private sector, we just want to make it as easy as possible to do y'all's thing. So the next big thing, the beauty of the magic, you're always one phone call away from, a $1 billion idea that changes the world. There's something floating around Kern County. I don't know what it is.
We got a lot of land.
We got millions of acres ready to go.
Yeah, I'm more looking like for the little guy. I would rather just see my city pretty, beautiful again, and safe that I can walk down the street.
Absolutely. And the two Measure K, Measure In is funding more police, and we've got money that the city especially is doing grants for upgraded security and facades and security. So it's happening, but it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It takes time, but good point.
So I just want to add kind of a question in this that you may not be able to answer, but the fact that the county even hired you, an entrepreneur, for a visionary role is a big deal to begin with. This community is growing whether we like it or not. We could all stop recruiting people to this community and they're going to show up because LA's full. So the big vision, and sometimes Jim and I have to get together and have to remind him he's not a bureaucrat or a politician, he's an entrepreneur. But to not get in the weeds of these things, because this community is going to grow, and if the leaders like you aren't managing that growth effectively and correctly, it's going to be ran by the people that are coming here, and we're going to have a lot more broken windows and things like that. So I just commend the county for even having this visionary goal and saying, hey, this is what the community is going to look like in 10 to 20 years. Let's make sure we're developing it in a way that works for us.
It's a great point. I appreciate you saying that. Some days I accept that compliment. Other days I go, I don't know if I should be getting paid. Because the government, it's a big machine. It moves slow by design. It's okay. But yeah, you're right. If we don't design the future, it's just going to show up. And then what? Right? So that's a great point, Michael. And I think, and the government has their, we try and make it as easy as possible for people to come and do great things, but we've got to have smart policies. The county, you may have heard, we just implemented, you talk about the homeless thing, but the county just passed an ordinance changing the way, that where urban camping is allowed. We've created new zones where you cannot just sleep on the sidewalk. Again, it's a delicate balancing act. The free movement around the world, around our country, is a sacred right. But when you sleep on the sidewalk and you have, these terrible problems that impact your ability to make $1 and have an employee, what do? So it's a very delicate balancing act. But if you go to a Board of Supervisors meeting, you'll see they're passing ordinance. They're figuring out how to make that better. They're investing in the root cause of the problems, right? And they're also trying to clean up the
Where are they
sidewalks.
going to go?
Where are they going to go? Well,
I mean, they'll bust into the next building that's vacant.
Well, that's. I think if we start,
then the police can't really do nothing about it.
We got a homeless problem that we're going to solve, and I'll tell you, here's one thing. It's going to take time, but I'll tell you what we just did. A bunch of us. I don't know if anybody else did it on Tuesday morning. I got up at 2 a.m. and we went out and we counted and we interviewed people that were living on the street, and we said, what has caused this? And we ask, and we think about, okay, it's a lack of housing, a lack of training. I talked to a number of people personally Tuesday morning, and you kind of get into this survey. You say, well, I'm addicted. What are you addicted to? How is alcohol, drug? I tell you what I heard. These were what the drug of choice they seek. It scared the hell out of me. Fentanyl. That's what people are going to find. That's what they're addicted to. It's a big problem. So we've got to treat that. So it's a complicated issue, but we've got a lot of smart people working on it. And together, public-private partnerships, we're going to make it better, and it's going to be the best place in the state. It's already on the way. Other questions before I let you get on to your happy hour? I do want to say to the organizers of EAKC, a long-storied community group here in town, thank you for putting this event on. We have, I think, past president of EAKC, my business partner, Scott, who said nice words about me. I owe you a drink. We have immediate past president, Mr. Hansen.
Debbie's the one that was the head of the committee that put it on here.
Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
So we're so lucky and blessed to have a community that has things like EAKC, because it just creates opportunities like this. So I really appreciate being invited to visit with y'all. I'll hang out for a minute. I'll leave my cards up here. I work for you all. If I can be of service, I'll do my best to help. But a round of applause for you, and thank you for having me. And that brings us to the conclusion.